Greetings, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Letting everybody come in. All right. Welcome, everybody. I am Cindy Lair, and I'm the program manager for the Colorado State Conservation Board and also the interim director of the Soil Health Program. We're really glad to have you all here. And we're going to give you a good overview, I hope, on how to apply for this upcoming application period for the STAR Plus program. And my colleagues on the call and that are helping with this presentation are Nikki Brinson, John Miller, Raquel Sanchez, and Kristen Boyson. So we're all here and happy to have you along. And just going to talk about the program workflow and the grant application. That's going to be Nikki talking, and then also the grantee requirements will be in John Miller's hands. We're going to go here to the next slide and ask you if you have any questions. Please put them in the chat, and we're going to be surveying and keeping an eye out on that chat box to make sure that we see them. And if we're going to make sure we answer them and have the chance to answer questions at the end of each session. So, so anyway, I am going to hand it over to John Miller, who's going to give that program overview.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for participating today and showing some interest in the STAR program and the STAR Plus program. And so I will briefly go over what that means. In 2021, House Bill 21-1181 created a voluntary soil health program at CDA funded by gifts, grants, and donations, and set up a state soil health advisory committee. This came out of several years of work by the Colorado Collaborative of Healthy Soils, where they got together a lot of stakeholder groups and producers, scientists, all sorts of folks around the state, and started to get that drumbeat going for this to occur. And once it happened, there was a secondary bill which provided stimulus funds for the program. In 2022, which was the first year of the STAR Plus program, we launched with 125 participants, 19 conservation districts and eligible entities. And there was grant funds from the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment, the CWCB, the National Fish and Wildlife, and the NRCS provided CIG funds. So we got a lot of funds in pretty quick. In 2023, the USDA Climate Smart Commodities Grant will provide an additional $25 million to expand STAR Plus. So the difference between STAR and STAR Plus, STAR is actually a online evaluation form that producers can fill out on their own. They do not have to be part of STAR Plus or the State Soil Health Program to use this. Any producer in Colorado can go on the CDA website and complete a STAR field form to receive a 1 through 5-star rating. The first 100 participants will receive a free soil health test. They're currently available, the ratings are available for 11 types of production, including alfalfa, non-alfalfa hay, annual grasses, grain and legume crops, hemp for flour, seed and fiber, orchards, potatoes, specialty row crops, sugar beets, vineyards, and grazing lands. CDA is developing partnerships to provide marketing and other opportunities for STAR participants, so folks that decide to go through and get that evaluation done. And then Colorado STAR Plus, that is the actual soil health program from the state, where we're providing incentive payments to producers to try out new practices on any given field as they gain familiarity and expertise with these practices. Conservation districts, entities, and technical assistance providers will work with participants to provide 4 years of technical assistance. Soil sampling will occur in years 1 and 3, with soil moisture probes being installed in the first year. Educational materials, outreach opportunities, access to new opportunities will be available through this program, and capacity support for conservation districts and eligible entities will be available to help with the implementation. What is the STAR evaluation tool? It is a free voluntary online assessment to help producers assess where they are in their soil health journey, inspire them by identifying new practices they can try to implement, encourage conversations around soil health between communities and neighbors, and to hopefully get some marketing for soil health practices, which is something I'll talk about in a little bit. The STAR evaluation is available to individual producers. There are no strings attached. And it was adopted from Illinois STAR for water quality, and we created our own Colorado specific forms for Colorado agriculture and sort of adapted it to soil health. As water quality and soil health are very closely related, so it was a pretty easy adaptation, but we do have a lot of unique instances in Colorado and different types of farming practices than they have in Illinois, so we had to develop our own forms. There's actually a national STAR now where they will be utilizing the STAR evaluation over large parts of the country. So there's going to be new states signing up to use it, and they'll be developing their own state forms or using regional forms for that. So what do you get? How do you get this evaluation? What do we take into account? We're really taking into account the 5 soil health principles. 1 being soil armoring, 2 minimum disturbance, an increase in diversity, a continual living root, and integration of livestock into their operations. So the producer, how does this work? The evaluation process, the producer would complete a field form for a given field in a given crop year. Points are assigned. The soil health principles and practices are used for croplands, and their decision-making and monitoring are used for grazing lands. So the grazing lands form is kind of its own creature, and it is a little bit more lengthy because we're asking a lot of questions about how they're making their decisions and how they're monitoring that decision-making once they're done. The forms are submitted via internet to CDA for scoring. There is an app in development that we'll be working on within the next year, and hopefully we'll be using it in 2024. This should make it a lot more easier for the producer and hopefully reduce the time it takes to do it. And also it should reduce some of the internal workings of this the evaluations having to be scored by our staff, and we can only focus on ones that show a red flag or a trouble with the data from the app. So hopefully that'll reduce the number quite a bit and make it a lot more speedy and less encumbersome for the producer. Then the producer will receive a STAR rating and a field sign after they're done with that scoring. And there is also random verification that happens in this process. So we want to make sure that we are getting good information from the producers as we go through this. Here's how the scores look. 1 is not a terrible, it's not a bad score. That's not a way to look at this, but it is a practice that is similar to what 80% of the fields of this type are doing in your region. 2 is a field that is beginning to implement soil health practices. 3 is a field that's implementing multiple soil health practices. 4 is a field implementing several, and then 5 is a field implementing all 5. So why would the producer want to use the STAR evaluation tool? We want to highlight producer efforts for doing the right thing. So we want to get them that sign with those stars and have people show them off and talk about them with their neighbors and their community. It is scientifically rigorous. So our evaluations were developed by a diverse committee of producers, scientists, NRCS staff, and others. It is flexible and adaptable. So it looks at soil health holistically. There are many pathways to improve soil health through this program. There are no prohibitions. All ag producers in Colorado are invited. So this doesn't focus on, say, organic producers versus non-organic or that type of thing. Or large producers versus small. We want everyone to participate that is interested. We want to encourage experimentation and continual improvement for agriculture in Colorado. It is field-based, but we encourage farm and ranch-wide adoption of these practices, and it is an annual process so they can reassess how they are doing. We want it to be not overly burdensome for producers or administrators. As I said, we're working on that app, which is hopefully going to help a little bit with that, but those forms are not too daunting the way they are. And lastly, and most importantly, I think, is the potential for a market signal. So we hope that people can use this tool to market their products as soil health friendly or soil health wise farming practices. And then a quick reminder, STAR for individual producers. The first 100 participants will receive a free soil health test, and we still have a few of those spots open. So if you know any producers interested, they can go fill out an evaluation and receive a free soil health test as well from Ward Laboratories. And then finally down to STAR Plus. What is STAR Plus? STAR Plus is the actual Colorado Soil Health Program. So STAR Plus participants will fill out the STAR field. I got messed up. They'll still fill out the STAR field evaluations, and then they'll go through a consultation process with the district or entity that they're working with. The producers will implement a new practice. So each producer will choose at least one new soil health practice to try on their particular field they picked. So one of those 5 practices I mentioned before, the producer will receive an incentive payment. There's capacity support for the conservation districts and entities that go through this to help the producers. There are equipment grants for conservation districts and entities, which can be passed through to the producers, or the districts or entities can purchase their own equipment. There is a field consultation, so that's where the producers and districts and entities are meeting together to discuss those practices and how they're implementing them. At the beginning and end of the program, they receive a soil test to determine if there are any changes in their soil throughout the process of implementing the practice. And so we can get that into our research end of this. There are educational materials that will be provided throughout. There's a peer-to-peer learning pilot that will be taking place in 2023. There's it doesn't say it on here, but there's a pay for performance pilot that we're looking at to potentially get producers more value for their crop based on how their STAR score changes over the years that they're in the program. And then there's a large research portion of this. We're working mainly with CSU, but with research, there's researchers from really all over the place that are helping with this. And they're looking at soil health versus carbon in the soil, impacts on air quality and water quality. There's an economic study that's being done to determine inputs and outputs from this for the producer, a sociology study that's being done to determine what barriers there may be for folks to implement these practices. And there's a soil moisture monitoring program, which we will be hearing more about if you just decide to sign up, where we're putting in soil moisture monitoring systems on every STAR Plus field with Climate Smart Commodities. So all of our new ones and all of our federally funded CIG producers will have a soil moisture monitoring system on their field that they can access with live data from an app. There are documentary films being developed, and then each conservation district and entity puts on at least one field day to highlight their soil health, their STAR Plus involvement, and their soil health journey of their producers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki Brinson, and she's going to,
Actually, let's see if we have any questions out there. That was a lot of information. It was a very quick overview, and just want to make sure we stop here and give a moment for anybody that has questions. You can raise your hand or speak up or put a message in the chat.
I went really fast too, so.
Yeah. There are a couple take-home messages while we're waiting for anybody with questions. A couple take-home messages from the Department of Ag on this, and that is, it would be something that we could deliver ourselves, but the most important part of what I see the soil health and the STAR Plus program being is a program that is deliverable at the local level. And conservation districts and some of the different grower groups are best suited for working with their own members, their own landowners, and things like that. And And so I just wanted to make sure you knew that we acknowledge those of you that are out there wanting to work and provide programs like this to your landowners, and making this available is what our goal has been. And our real goal is to have statewide coverage. We have 19 of those groups right now, and we have the capacity for up to 45. And so getting statewide coverage would really be outstanding as far as we're concerned. We have a couple questions here. One is, are the slides going to be available in digital or print form?
We do have recordings of this presentation that will go on our YouTube channel. And then I don't see a reason why we couldn't share the slides in digital form to folks.
We could probably put it on our website, I think.
Yep.
Would be the best place to do that.
Then we have, do you have a list of what are considered soil health practices? You know, I don't know that we have a definitive list. I would say we have a lot of people trying a lot of different things, and we're trying to encourage people to think outside the box and sort of come up with their own ideas. But I would be glad to discuss with you some of the soil health practices that people are implementing so far. Although it might make more sense to do that in an email conversation or on the phone. If you want to give me an email, shoot me an email, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. To anyone interested, my email is john.miller@state.co.us.
And Jim, I would just say that, you know, it's not so much the practices, but how they're applied, how they apply to the 5 principles of soil health that were discussed earlier. And so it's really about how that all works together, because we are clearly here to say there's no one size fits all, and we aren't telling anybody how to apply these principles at the ground level, because it takes in so many things into effect. So just so you know that it's not just tried and true, these are the practices we pay for, and these are the ones we don't. It's really, like John said, it's a lot more involved than that, and we respect how many decisions it takes at that local level.
I would say the practices sort of need to fall under one of those 5 principles of soil health. So diversity of species, a continuous living root, implementation of livestock, soil armoring, and I feel like I only named 4, but the 5 principles of soil health are pretty easy to find online, and really we want the practices the producers implement through this program to fit sort of under one of those banners.
All right. And let's see, another question. Are there any 2 or 3 conservation districts in mind from the first year that you can chat with about their experiences, what their board did and didn't do, general guidance? Well, you know, I would point you to a few that have been working the program: Delta Conservation District, Boulder Valley and Longmont Conservation Districts, probably the Muskahooper Conservation District.
Colorado First, I think, would probably be.
Yep, some of those.
Reach out to Casey Green there also.
So those are a bunch.
All the current conservation districts involved in Star Plus are also on a map on the website that I responded in with. So you can also, check that out if you're looking for a local one specific.
Looks like Kristen put that map on in the chat. Thank you.
Neva has a question about, I've heard the answer a couple times that 2023 will include soil tests during year 1 and 3, but no soil moisture metering installed. We will actually be installing the soil moisture monitors in 2024 for the Climate Smart Commodities folks. That will also be that will be when we be putting in those systems. 2023 is really more of a sign up year for Climate Smart Commodities.
Jenny asks the question, with the new Star Plus grant program, will funding be constant for all 3 years for the producers with the amount of $5,000 per year? Nikki, can you address that?
Yes, and I'll be going into that next.
All right, sounds good.
It looks like, are we caught up here?
I think we're a little bit caught up. All right. Thanks, everybody, for those great questions. And thanks, John, for giving the nice overview. Nikki, can you go next and talk about program workflow and the actual application?
Yeah, of course. So welcome, everyone. This is probably going to cover Jenny a little more to clarify for you, but in this grant, it was written in that the producers will receive the 5,000 match per year option. So for everyone else, this is the big picture overview of the grant that is new to the program. For new eligible entities or conservation districts that are signing up, you will receive the initial capacity of $20,000. Like I mentioned, the producer incentives, they are going to be required for match, starts at $75 an acre, and the minimum of $1,000 with a maximum payout of $5,000. Again, require that 50% match, and it's required that your producer list include less than 40% are actually your board supervisors or their direct family members. There's additional capacity available for when your group or the technical service providers complete the consultation, or if it's not the first year of the consultation form, if they're doing check-in forms on years 2 and 3, that the district or entity will receive $2,000 a year per producer, and including the soil samples that will be paid for. Again, this came up that there'll be equipment grants up to $25,000. Match is also required. There'll be a written plan, and we will offer a template for your application going forward. The key pieces are that the Department of Ag is currently in the final stages of contracting with USDA and the Climate Smart Commodities Grant, so we don't have anything yet. But once we do, then we can contract with the district. So the timeline is still kind of on par for being in contract or purchase orders that will be sent out the end of this calendar year for starting in calendar year 2024 as far as the conservation district annual budget. But the crop year will be from October 1st of this year through next year. So we don't know yet whether it will be an annual PO for those 4 years that we will have to send you, or whether I can set it up as a contract and we amend it each year to add the additional money for the subsequent years. So more information will be coming on that as soon as we have our signed contract. A little bit more on the information on the equipment grant. So like we mentioned, $25,000 maximum cash match is required at 50%. You have to provide receipts from either the landowner, the district, or whoever is actually purchasing the equipment. To receive the funds, you have to submit a written plan to our general email, and all, just a note is that all communication for the grant will need to go to the CDA_soil@state.co.us. That's for producer match, contracts, questions about the application even right now. Definitely feel free to send those into that email. So for the equipment grant, the written plan will really have the description of the equipment, who it will be used, how it will be maintained, anticipated delivery. In some cases, we understand that, you need to get approved for that before you or the owner can make the purchase. So we'll need a final receipt within 90 days of sending the money to the district to pay out. So there's some information if the producer receives a sub-grant from the conservation district. Some conservation districts chose to break up their $25,000 and offer $5,000 grants for multiple producers. And if that's the case, we just need information on how the grant was solicited, how the producers were selected, if there was any criteria, and a note if the producer is a board member or direct family member. We need all of that recorded in the district meeting minutes and attach those minutes to the written plan when you're sending them in for approval. Next slide, John, please. Thanks. So for those of you that may be new to grants or specifically matching grants, there's these two different kind of infographics or visual approaches to it. The one on the left, the bar graph, just shows if you have a matching contribution of $5,000, the producer incentive payment is $5,000, total investment of $10,000, but basically it's a 50% match. So the total cost of an item or equipment, $1 of that is producer money or district money, and another $1 is the match that we will pay. Like I mentioned, the 2023 applications are online now. There's a link to it there. We do have information on the Colorado Department of Agriculture's soil health website. The applications are available there, as well as on the soil kind of operations site. There's 2 applications. There's one for new participants for either conservation districts or eligible entities. And there's an application for existing ones. So if you are currently in the program as an existing district and you have your maximum amount of producers, or you want to get up to 10 producers or apply for more, all of that, use the existing application and you will be able to get the information needed there. Be sure that you download it because they are Word documents and they are due April 3rd. Then this slide just goes over again to make sure that you download the document onto your local computer to save it. It's a Word document, so the gray boxes will expand as you type. You should have more than enough information to really put in some good details there. And then go ahead and submit it through email as an attachment. Raquel will confirm that she's received it and all the information is there. Key point is the more the merrier. Remember that you can't provide too much detail in the narrative section. So please don't answer with 1 to 2 words. Tell us about your landscape, your producers, in as much detail so we can really get an understanding of your local area and what you're hoping to accomplish with that. Again, attach it and email it to the soil email. And in both applications and circumstances, the evaluation criteria of how it's going to be evaluated is on the last pages of the application. So as you're filling out those questions, definitely make sure you're checking that evaluation criteria and you're kind of checking all the boxes to make sure that you have everything on there so that you score as many points as possible in your application.
So Nikki, there's a couple questions from existing entities or conservation districts. And one is, if they apply for more money with the Climate Smart Commodities, are they eligible for an equipment grant?
So we do not have that answer yet. And partly I'm guessing that is going to be based upon available funding. So the new groups will have first pick at that since they have not received an equipment grant yet. However, if we end up in a situation like we were last year where there was extra money to be spent, I would assume that we would proceed with that as well and offer that as kind of a second round of equipment grants. So in the initial application for existing only, there's not guaranteed equipment grant, but there is a possibility.
So I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, and it may come out in the wash, but so if, say, a district has 7 producers that they're working with now, and they've been part of it for 2022 and 2023, if they get 10 more, so they get up to their first 10, so they bump from 7 to 10, and then they get 10 more from the Climate Smart Commodities side of it, would there automatically be an equipment grant because they got the additional 10 on top of their first 10?
Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question about, Susie asks if a CD is participating, do we need to go up to 10%, 10 participants before applying for CSC funds? That's the question.
That's a good question, Susie. So the short version is just fill out the application for existing CDs and put how many producers you think you can get on that. So let's say you want 15 new producers, Susie, and you have 7 now. Go ahead and apply using the existing application for 15. You would automatically get the 3 needed to get you up to 10 out of that 15. So then your application would be scored to evaluate for those additional 10, 12, or however many you say there. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I think so. And
could you go over eligible entity qualifications? Are small businesses in support of regenerative farmers and ranchers eligible?
We'll have to look at the small business side of that. We have mainly been defined as local governments, grower groups, nonprofits, and things like that. I don't, and we'll have to look at the definition that's in the actual bill to see how it defines eligible entities, to see if that would capture small businesses as well.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind actually emailing us, that way we can make sure to get back directly to you with an answer. That would be extremely helpful.
It really would.
And then I have a participant in round 1 of the STAR grant from 2022. They are asking if they can be grandfathered in with this new STAR grant funding to get additional funding to match the $5,000.
So no, if you have a producers in the existing program and you're existing participant of the grants, this is completely new producers, because you can't match federal to federal dollars, and both of these sources are coming from federal piles of money, Jenny. So they'd have to be separate. They don't get an additional 5,000 from the feds. And for those existing conservation districts, just so you know, regardless of where your funding is this year, for you applying for CSD, it will be a separate purchase order or contract for that grant, just to keep them both separate for audit purposes.
All right. Thanks for those questions. And I'm going to hand it over now to John. Thank you, Nikki, for going through the application process. And again, at the very end, we're going to have time for any questions that came up on the whole presentation. So this isn't your only shot at asking us questions about the actual application and that sort of thing. But so, John, let's talk about grantee requirements.
I think this might be Raquel.
Oh, I'm sorry, Raquel.
Oh, maybe it is me. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure. I guess it's me. I can go for it. All right. Here are year-by-year requirements. Year 1, we have your eligibility check. So producers do have to be determined eligible by the FSA to receive federal funds. So that is worth noting up front. Initial consultations. So the district or entity would go out and do a consultation with the producer and talk to them about what practice they want to implement. We have a consultation form, and they'd be looking at that form and going through the questions with those producers, seeing what their end goals are, and kind of figuring out how they can help those producers get going with this. There's soil sampling the first year. Soil moisture probes will be installed the first year. So again, this would all be from fall of 2023 through fall of 2024. That like the soil sampling and the soil moisture probes would go in. There would be the producer incentives. So the producer would submit their receipts, and the district or entity would help the producer to get the match form filled out. And then in year 1, they would receive their STAR rating and field sign. In years 2 to 3, there are producer check-ins, which again, there's a producer check-in form to help you with that. There is, again, the producer incentive. So throughout those years, the producer will continue to implement the soil health practices and receive their, and the district or entity would then be helping them to fill out the match form. And then there is soil sampling in year 3. And then in year 4, there's a final consultation. The producers would receive their final incentives. And so again, the district entity would be helping them to fill out that match form. And then ongoing, there will be a field day from the district or entity and communication with technical assistance providers. That will be going on throughout the whole thing. I guess I had one slide.
All right. Let's see. It looks like we're getting our other questions answered. Thank you, Kristen, for answering Susie on that. Susie, I would also say that if a district wants to hire their own technical assistance provider that wants to work directly with the district for the district, you can make those arrangements on your own. But like Kristen said, the Department of Ag has an agreement with CSU to provide some technical assistance providers, and hopefully we're also going to be hiring some soil health folks from the Department of Ags, and so that we can also help with that on the ground consultation and development of planning.
We also have, so Climate Smart Commodities Year 1 starts in October. Would soil sampling be expected in fall of 2023, or could it be done in spring of 2024? We would prefer it to be done in spring of 2024. And when the final soil sample happens, we would also like that to be done at the same time of year that the original one was taken, as close to the same conditions as possible.
All right, thank you, John. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask those about the whole presentation. That's what we're here for, to try to answer any questions that might be coming up for you. Is the soil test a standard soil test or a soil health test? Hi, Jim. It is definitely a more involved soil health test. It really looks at a wide array of soil functional characteristics. It isn't just your typical NPK. It is a much more involved test. And when will we have a list of our TAPs? I think the list of TAPs is very similar, Penny, to what we had last year with extension. Question is, can other districts such as water districts apply to Star Plus or CSC? And they are the same. When we refer to CSC, that's Climate Smart Commodities, and that is the grant source that is paying for our next iteration of the Star Plus program. And yes, water districts can apply. We have one Water Conservancy district online already. And so, yes, we do encourage water districts to be a part of this. Our soils email has been put in the chat, and please know that that is a good way to get a hold of us to ask other questions. We'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can. Do keep a pretty close eye on that. And thank you, Kristen, for putting that in there. And then the question is, what happens if you receive multiple applications from one area? And just so you know, we will be going through all of the applications to look at eligibility and things like that. But it will be the Soil Health Advisory Committee that will be making the final determination as to which entities are selected to implement this and to go under contract with us. And we do look at geographic distribution quite a bit, and sometimes there can be some overlap, and typically we will defer to the local conservation district that is in play in that area, and ask that the conservation district that's in place is able to work with their landowners, and I really encourage you, if you are not a conservation district, to confer with that conservation district to see if they are working the Star Plus program, or if they already have their 10 producers on board. Maybe you could work on some of the producers that are there. There could be a producer that decides they want to work with their eligible entity and maybe not the conservation district. But we can help you with that. If you are a selected eligible entity, we could help you know which districts are operating a Star Plus program. And once those districts get, up to 10, then it's they won't have any capacity for any others unless they use their own money to approach that. And so it probably isn't going to be as difficult working with them to add some producers within their area. It just takes some communication. I hope that helps. So it's not like we're only going to allow one entity to provide this geographic area. Some of them, like we have Colorado Corn, that is offering the program, and they go statewide, and they also are offering it within some areas where an existing conservation district is also delivering the program. And so far it hasn't been a problem because it's not like it's unlimited. There's a limit to the number of participants you can have. So it seems to have, all of those overlaps seem to have worked out okay with some conversation about it. Do public land permits qualify? That is a very good question. And we haven't talked too much about this, but we also recognize, like in the rangeland part of the program, we look at the whole operation, and that would include leases, and it would include all aspects of the land that are included in that operation. And so because we know some people, a lot of ranches are not just the fee land that they have control over, that they also are grazing on other neighboring or nearby public lands. That's part of the operation too. And so hopefully that is what you're asking about, or maybe state land board land. That would all fit within this very well. And I hope I answered your question, Tristan, about public land permits. So the state land board has actually been following the program pretty closely, and they're talking about trying to recommend the STAR program on its own to their tenants. So a lot of the public lands, at least the managers, are aware of what we're doing with the STAR program and have been pretty supportive of it.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? State public lands, right?
This is Tristan. I am talking both state and federal. So through our coordinated resource management plans, each producer will have, private land, of course, some lease land, and then some public and or state lands. So it's kind of everything.
Right. It doesn't have to be just state lands for that, because it's not so much about the ownership, it's about the management of it, and the fact that that is part of where you go to for some of your grazing.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right. The question from Neva is, does CDA plan for any additional training opportunities for participating entities similar to the soil probe, the instruction last year, and would love an in-person tutorial on better deciphering the ward tests? So it's a great question, Neva, and we definitely like that kind of feedback, and we will, I think we'll do what we can to create. I think there's been a lot of questions about how to interpret the ward soil tests and other things like that. So yes, we will. I don't know that we have funding right now for the actual in-person side of that, but definitely we can easily create webinars so that more people can get on and learn about them rather than everybody going together. But boy, I'm with you, Neva. I would love more of a hands-on ward test interpretation, and really being able to look at some soils to be able to look at what those tests are reflecting in the soil. That would be a lot of fun and a great idea. Just have to look at how that works out for us from a funding perspective. But thanks for the great idea.
we've had some conversations with Ward also about potentially putting on a webinar to interpret the results. So hopefully that works out. I am the ED for a nonprofit that owns and manages a 340-acre ranch, and we work with producers frequently who also manage their land. According to grantee requirements, we would be able to apply for this contract, for this grant contract, correct? Oh, that's it.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, that was a direct message to me, but
Okay.
I missed the first part because I was trying to find the message. Sorry.
I can answer it. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
qualify. And feel free to reach out to us or me specifically if you want to kind of like talk through the requirements and what would be needed of you. We haven't in the past had an eligible entity who also is a participant. So if you wanted to enroll your own property in the STAR Plus program, we might have to think about how that would work. But if you're working with other producers and you, the NGO or the eligible entity, that sounds like a great setup. But happy to talk offline too.
All right. Well, we certainly don't have to take the full hour. And if the questions are slowing down or come to a stop, we can definitely let you get on with your day. I wanted to also make you aware that we have office hours that we offer. And when the grant period, right now they're offered once a month on Monday mornings at 11. What day of the month is that? Is it the first Monday? I just show up.
Typically the first Monday of the month.
Yes, first Monday of the month is when we do them, and it's just, we set aside an hour, but usually they don't take a full hour, and it's anybody that has questions about the program can come and ask questions, and it gives you a chance to hear the other types of questions others are having. And a lot of you that are on this call now have been there. And so we just encourage more and more of you to come and be a part of that office hours where we're there and just ready to answer your questions if we can. And it helps us to know what problems might be out there too. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We'll be doing that every other week as the season gets going, but we definitely slowed down since it's not the growing season and not as much activity going on right now. All right. Well, I want to thank our group and let you know that, we do meet twice a week to talk about all of these activities. We don't just meet twice a week, we meet all the time dealing with the STAR Plus program and how to administer it. So anytime you send an email to the Soils email, it is a great way to make sure that our team is able to really flesh it out. Kristen has put her email out there to help. John has his email out there to help. So please feel free to let us know. All right, so I'm gonna say we're gonna end it now, and thanks to all of you. I hope this has given you enough information to encourage you to apply and give as many details as you can so that you're definitely in the running for this. We have up to 45 entities that we can support through this. So, all right, thanks a lot. And
Thanks, everybody.
see you later.